YouTube used to be the world's worst dating site until it got so bad that it almost got deleted. You see, before the likes of Dream, Mr. Beast, and me, the site was a very different place. You couldn't even make a channel. Instead, you'd make a profile which would have a bunch of information about you that would try to pair you up with someone in your area. But this didn't really go to plan. In fact, it was so unsuccessful that the developers of YouTube were considering just deleting the website. But luckily, before this could happen, YouTube was bought by Google, which kept the name of the website but changed pretty much everything else. Anyway, did you know that? Have you ever gotten a brain freeze? Well, they're not what you think they are. You see, when you eat an ice cream or really anything cold, your brain quickly starts to cool down, but it can't get too cold or else you'll die. So your body sends a ton of blood back up to your head to try to kind of warm it back up. But because this change of temperature has happened so fast, your nerves start to freak out and it results in the headache we're all too familiar with. This general saved the world from nuclear war, but no one remembers him. Here's the crazy reason why. It's the Cold War and the Americans are freaking out because Russia has this itty-bitty nuclear sub parked off the coast of Cuba. Now this sub is loaded with nuclear torpedoes, so it's a serious threat. And America knows this, so they fire 2 warning shots at the submarine, trying to tell it to surface. But the Russians don't back down. Instead, they see it as a sign of aggression and get ready to fire a nuclear torpedo. So they aim their submarine and get ready to destroy America. But with seconds on the clock, this general, who I'm not going to try and pronounce his name, cancels the launch and tells his team to wait. They realize they were warning shots and call off the Third World War, saving billions of lives, including mine and yours. Keep learning every day. How much money does Disneyland make in one day? Well, to figure that out, we first got to calculate the money made from transport, food, drinks, your actual ticket into the park, and all the merch people choose to buy. But how much is Disney actually making from this? Well, when it's all added together, you're looking at an average of $20 million per day, which does sound insane, but it's nothing compared to the $82 billion per year. But that's...
How do tsunamis happen? Take that back. So, tsunamis are giant waves, right? So let's first look at a normal wave. These guys are those fun ones you can body surf in. They get their energy from wind blowing them really hard. But wind only really affects the surface of the ocean, so these waves are pretty tiny, but tsunami huge, which is the problem. See, a tsunami wave originates underwater, when something like a volcano erupts, or a landslide occurs, or usually an earthquake on the ocean floor releases a massive amount of energy. This energy rushes out in all directions and upwards, pushing the water above normal sea level. And because of gravity, what goes up must come down, so a huge ripple forms. This energy then travels through the water towards the coast at like 500 miles per hour. Now, as the energy gets closer to land, the water gets shallower and shallower, but the energy needs somewhere to go, so it goes up, creating a giant wave with trillions of gallons of water in it.
Ever drink Fanta? Well, Hitler wanted to use it to take over the world because in the 1930s, German soldiers are completely addicted to Coke, but because of the war, America stops supplying and they can't get their fix. So this guy creates his own drink, Fanta, but there's another problem. Fanta tastes terrible because Hitler controls the sugar industry and he's only sharing to products that invoke Nazi pride, which it did do for a while until it was ironically bought by Coke, the company that it was literally ripping off. Keep learning every day. You know Mr. Beast, right? Well, have you ever wondered how he's got so much money to spend? And before you say it, it's not just because he's rich. Take a look at this. You probably already know this, but every one of Mr. Beast's videos has a sponsorship in it, which usually come from places like Raid Shadow Legends or a website like Honey. But what makes the Mr. Beast cruise so unique is instead of just pocketing the money, they reinvest it back into their content, which creates this infinite cycle that lets them make awesome videos and still cash in a lot of money. Have you ever wondered how McDonald's makes their burgers so fast? It's really quite crazy. You see, it's 1955, and the McDonald's brothers have just opened their first of many restaurants. But there's a problem. You see, they promised to make your burger in 30 seconds, but with the rise in demand, this is getting harder and harder. So to fix this, they completely destroy their old kitchen and move all of their employees to a tennis court, where they grab chalk and drew the best kitchen design they could think of, which they slowly refined until they became the fastest restaurant on earth. 4,000 years ago, ancient Egypt, there's these two brothers, and they've just been challenged to build two great pyramids by their pharaoh. Whoever finishes their pyramid first gets infinite riches. This is what happened. The first brother gets to work immediately, going out into the desert and building his pyramid brick by brick, while the other sits in his workshop all day doing what looks like nothing. But he's not just doing nothing, he's actually building a crane. So when his brother is tired out and can't work anymore, he can start his pyramid and win all the riches. Leave a comment if you got the story. This is David Blaine levitating off the ground, but how does he do it? Well, it's actually a lot simpler than you'd think, so let me teach you. You see, in all of these videos, David is performing the Baldushi levitation, a magic trick that requires the audience to be facing at exactly the right angle, which is why in these videos, some people are amazed, while others are really unimpressed. And that's because he's literally just doing this with his feet. You know the Big Mac? Well, it used to be called the Big Dick. So there's this guy, Richard, one of the original McDonald's brothers who helped start the company. So when they went to go make the menu, they decided to name their staple item after him, which would go on to be called the Big Mac, but was originally called the Big Richard, which really isn't the best name. If you know, you know. The youngest billionaire on Earth lied and cheated her way to the White House. Here's the crazy way she pulled it off. Meet Elizabeth Holmes, a young entrepreneur that wanted to revolutionize the healthcare industry. Because in the 2000s, everyone wants faster and cheaper blood tests, but there's a problem. Traditional methods are slow and really expensive. So Elizabeth creates Theranos, a device that could do hundreds of tests with just one tiny drop of blood. But there's another problem. It doesn't work because science isn't magic, you can't cut corners. But in Silicon Valley, the show must go on, so she lies to the press and says it works, when in reality, she's got no product to sell. Subscribe for part 2. Lego has this crazy history that not many people know about. You see, it's 1932 and this Danish carpenter has just lost everything. His wife just passed away, his workshop burned down, and sales are lower than ever. But he still needs to feed his family, so he brings his older son into the workshop with him, where they make and sell simple wooden toys. But there's a problem, you see, kids are getting bored, they want to make things, use their imaginations. So the son engineers this small interlocking brick toy, which would evolve into plastic and fly off shelves ever since. Why do we sneeze? We all sneeze from time to time, but have you ever wondered why? It's pretty crazy. You see, when you breathe in pollen, smoke, or anything else that really shouldn't be in your nose, the hairs up there send an electric charge up to your brain, which compresses your lungs and results in a... lost it. Do you want a six-pack? Well, we're gonna get you one, but you need to listen to this story first. Because a few thousand years ago, there's this kid, Milo, and he's jacked, like Arnold jacked, so everyone's wondering how he got so big. But it's actually really simple. You see, Milo's a farmer, and every day since he was a little kid, he's had to carry this cow on his back up a mountain every day. But because he started when he was so young, as the cow grew, so did he, giving Milo a 10 out of 10 physique and us the principles to build our own. Keep learning every day. Have you ever wondered why the Royal Guard wears those weird hats? They're actually really important. They often save lives. You see, when the Royal Guard was first formed, soldiers died like a lot, and people started to realize that this was usually from bullet wounds in the back of their head. So something inevitably had to change. And it did. Queen Elizabeth came up with the idea to create a uniform so abstract that it could confuse or potentially make attackers miss the guard's entire head. You know onions? Well, why do they make us cry? Well, when you eat an onion, it releases this gas full of these little cells, which are sort of designed as a defense mechanism to protect the onion from animals like rabbits, rats, and you. So the reason we're always crying is these tiny sharp cells literally attacking your eyes. You know the North Sea? Well, why is it so dangerous? It's pretty crazy. You see, unlike other parts of the ocean, the North Sea has a super shallow floor, only reaching around 700 meters deep, which on its own isn't really a problem, but when combined with crazy wind speeds, the waters start to develop into those crazy huge waves you see all over TikTok.